Dragon Ball characters do dumb things, whether it be sparing an evil emperor's life or choosing the most illogical way to solve an android problem. The franchise has always found ways to take dumb ideas and make it somehow work out. And in today's video, Black and Fist and I will break down 10 times that bad decisions saved the Dragon Ball universe.
Coming in at number 1, Goku spares Piccolo Jr. After a fierce and long battle, Goku of course finally wins his first ever World Martial Arts tournament after having tried 3 times. However, at the very end of the tournament, a very critical decision is made. Should he erase Piccolo from this earth or allow him to stay? Well, considering the Goku we all know, he of course allows Piccolo to live. Partly for selfish reasons and unselfish ones. Of course, Piccolo is one of the few people that can give Goku a challenge. However, one very important factor is the fact that Kami and Piccolo are linked. If Piccolo was killed off at the 23rd tournament, Goku would have to face Raditz alone. But not only that, because Piccolo is also dead, the Dragon Balls would also not be in effect, meaning that if Goku dies in the conflict with Raditz, there is no coming back.
But sparing Piccolo's life transitions us perfectly into Goku sparing Raditz's life. During the fight against Raditz, Goku had a moment where he was able to grab onto Raditz's tail, and Piccolo could have killed Raditz right there with a Makanko Sapo, also known as a special beam cannon. Raditz would have died, and Goku could have lived to fight another day. But Goku let go of Raditz's tail, Raditz attacked him and freed himself from such a dangerous position. Now, because of this, Goku had to eventually sacrifice his life to take out Raditz the next time he had an opportunity, and as a result of this, Goku died. But because of the fact that Goku was able to die, he was able to train with King Kai and get a lot stronger. And because Goku died and he was completely separated from his son, Piccolo trained Gohan and obviously brought out a lot of Gohan's abilities. And because of the relationship that Gohan and Piccolo developed, Piccolo eventually became a long-term ally of our heroes. So we can say with certainty that Goku dying against Raditz was one of the greatest things for the Dragon Ball franchise.
Number 3. Sparing Vegeta's life. After a vicious conflict that left Goku immobilized, Vegeta was finally at the end of his rope. It was in that moment that Krillin picked up Yajirobe's sword and was about to deliver the final blow, until our very forgiving hero once again steps in. Although this time it seemed to be a lot more selfish, as another person's life, such as Kami, was not really in the balance. So sparing someone like this seems to be a pretty bad decision. Almost nothing good can come from it. However, it turns out that on planet Namek there is a much greater foe. Kui, Dodoria, and Zarbon all met an unfortunate fate at the hands of Vegeta, all of which could have caused trouble to both Krillin and Gohan. Their alliance with him proved to be immensely helpful, especially in the conflict with the Ginyu Force. Even in the conflict with Frieza, he served an immense help, holding off Frieza for just enough time to save the day.
And one could argue that saving Dende's life was just as important as sparing Vegeta's. During the Namek arc, we have a situation where Krillin and Gohan are spying on one of the Namekian villages that is being pillaged by Frieza's henchmen. Krillin was totally against the idea of jumping in to help because he understood that both Frieza and all of his henchmen were way stronger than both him and Gohan, and jumping in that battle would be suicide. And while you could argue that that was a very poor decision at the time, it ended up being one of the greatest decisions our heroes ever made, because saving Dende was integral in all of the battles on planet Namek. Dende introduced everybody to Guru so that they could get their potential unlocked. Dende was also able to translate and make wishes to Porunga, and Dende was also integral in healing our heroes in many fights against Frieza. And saving Dende's life, even though it seemed like saving some random Namekian kid was a waste of time, ended up being the most important decision that our heroes made on planet Namek.
Number 5. Future Gohan's final battle. On a very fateful day where the androids were once again destroying a city, Gohan right then and there made a very, very dark choice. Qaaman has made videos about this in the past about how Gohan most likely knew he was going to die if he went in to fight the androids like this, but he did anyway. Now, of course, when you examine this choice logically, it's a pretty terrible choice. Of course, upon Trunks discovering the body of his good friend Gohan, he finally attains the transformation he was trying to achieve, giving him one of the key tools that he would eventually need to save his own future, killing both androids 17, 18, and when Cell came around, he disposed of him. Of course, the events of Trunks' past are different in the manga. While training with Gohan, Trunks already had attained the Super Saiyan transformation. However, the same motivations still apply, because Gohan's death still motivated Trunks to get stronger. So the same emotions would still run through Trunks, even in the manga version.
And while we're on the subject of the androids, at number 6, we have Krillin Spears 16 and 18. We had a situation where Cell was trying to absorb 18 to attain his perfect form, and Krillin had a moment given to him from Bulma to deactivate 18 and destroy her so that Cell wouldn't be able to absorb her. Now, short term, this is a completely awful decision because Krillin's decision ultimately led to 18 getting absorbed anyways, but at the same time, when you think about this moment for a long-term perspective, in Super, if it weren't for Krillin's marriage to 18, they wouldn't have been able to find Android 17, and finding 17 was very important in helping in the Tournament of Power, because without 17, our heroes would have lost. And if we think about it from the perspective of GT, if it weren't for 18's relationship with 17, everybody would have gotten killed when Super 17 was about to kill Goku. And as far as Android 16 is concerned, Krillin came up with the idea to spare 16's life and to have him repaired from Bulma and Dr. Briefs. And while 16 was eventually killed by Cell anyways, it was his conversation with Gohan that allowed him to bring out his hidden powers. So in saving 16 and 18, Dragon Ball history was ultimately changed.
Number 7. Gohan toys with Cell and slacks off. During the fight with Cell, Gohan finally had unlocked a level of power that no one else before had. However, unfortunately, Cell became much more desperate, eventually resorting to a self-destruct move. Gohan was unable to stop it, however, there was one person that could, and that was Goku. Goku going to the other world did have its benefits. He was able to get training that he otherwise would not have gotten if he had stayed alive, eventually attaining Super Saiyan 3. But arguably, he learned something a little bit more useful: the Memories Fusion. Now, of course, it did serve a little bit of utility during the conflict with Buu. However, the Memories Fusion did become a lot more integral during the conflict years later with Broly. Funnily enough, Gohan also had an indirect effect in the discovery of another fusion. He was given an opportunity by the Supreme Ka, so he could pull out the Z-Sword. Now, of course, the Z-Sword wasn't exactly the most useful of tools, but what was useful about it was when it broke, unleashing the Elder Kai. But of course, the most useful thing that he imparted to everyone else was the discovery of the Potara earrings. Of course, this became handy in the fight with Buu once again. So ultimately, some of Gohan's biggest mistakes turned out to lead us to fusion.
And this takes us right into the Buu arc, where Kid Buu is destroying the planet and Goku has to make a very tough decision. Does he save his sons, Trunks and Piccolo, or does he save Mr. Satan and Dende? Even though you can make a very strong argument that saving Gohan, Goten, and Trunks and Piccolo would have been a better decision because you would have had stronger fighters on the planet that could have all fought off Kid Buu at once, because of the fact that Mr. Satan was there and because Dende was alive, he was able to go to Planet Namek and he was able to communicate with Porunga to get the wishes necessary to bring back Planet Earth. And as a result of this, Dende ultimately proved very useful in the situation against Kid Buu. But most importantly, even if Gohan and Gotenks were able to defeat Kid Buu in battle, would they have been able to have completely wiped him out because of his regeneration ability? And it took a Spirit Bomb, an attack with such pure energy and size that was able to engulf Kid Buu, that finally took him down. And had it not been for Mr. Satan to get humanity to all join in on the fight against Kid Buu, this wouldn't have happened. So one of Goku's worst decisions actually ended up working out for our heroes.
Number 9, taking Pan into space. Now I know many of you might say it's not canon, but it still exists, so deal with it. Now taking Pan, a child, up into space is probably not the best idea, especially when you have so many better candidates on the Earth for you to choose from. Originally it was going to be Goten, considering his fighting ability and also the very important fact that he can fuse with Trunks. He probably would have been a much better crew member and served a lot more if he actually was the one going into space. However, it turned out not to be that negative. One very crucial member of the crew eventually becomes Giru, a small little robot who eats the Dragon Radar, and essentially he becomes the Dragon Radar. Pan was the one who seemed to bond most closely with Giru, which obviously helped out in the expeditions in looking for the Dragon Balls, as of course they couldn't have done it without him. There were also a couple instances where Pan herself saved Goku and Trunks that maybe perhaps someone else couldn't have.
But going back from our alternate GT experience to Dragon Ball Super, we have the one decision in Dragon Ball Super that you probably saw coming. And this was the decision to bring Frieza to fight during the Tournament of Power. Now, if you guys remember, when Frieza was first revealed to be returning to the Tournament of Power, us as Dragon Ball fans were very, very, very skeptical about this idea. A lot of us thought that it was a terrible idea. Some people thought, why would you bring back a villain like Frieza? It was bizarre, silly, and seemed completely foolish all in one. And when you factor in how important Frieza was in helping to defeat Jiren, and helping out to defeat many other characters throughout all of the Tournament of Power battles like Dispo and more, if it weren't for Frieza, our heroes would have lost. Let's also remember the point in time where Goku was completely exhausted after fighting against Jiren the first time, and it was Frieza that loaned his energy to him so that Goku could get up and fight again. And for all of those reasons, recruiting Frieza was by far the greatest decision of Dragon Ball Super. And while we're on the subject of joint topics, check out why future Trunks never needed time travel, where Black and Fist and I break down ways that they could have defeated the androids without it, or why the Supreme Kai is the worst character in Dragon Ball. And if you want something a bit more humorous, check out 10 times Master Roshi went too far. And until next time, stay cool and stay safe, my friends.